Hey, what's up, guys? Oh, it's been a while. Not been a while to be live. We did a couple live streams last week, but it's been a while to build something live, which I did explain a little bit about last week. The kind of main reason for that is because I've been working on the Manzinger, as some of you may know it, or the Mazinger Zeta Infinity version, which is done over there. So probably later today, I'll film my review for that. Just kind of like my final review, just showing you guys the finished product of the Mazinger kit. And later today also we'll work on a new Zaku News video for the USA Gundam TV channel as well. So later today, a few hours later, it'll take me a little while. I need to shoot it, edit it, upload it, and everything. But a little bit later on, we'll do that for the USA Gundam TV channel. And speaking of the USA Gundam TV channel, later this week, Adam and I will be doing a live stream together on the USA Gundam channel, where we'll be showing off some of the new stuff they have in stock there, and then doing some Q&A, answering some questions you guys have for Adam there, the owner at USA Gundam Store. So we'll be hanging out. You guys can ask your questions, and we'll check out some new stuff they got there. So should be cool. And then one other thing too. At the end of this week on Friday, I'll have the first in a new series of like a new round of builder interviews. So it's also been a while since we've done any interviews, but I want to get back to doing those as well. So first one's going to be this Friday, and for you guys, a little over 100 of you that are watching live, you'll get the news first. I'll give you the first reveal as to who it's going to be for this week's interview. Is going to be with none other than Moki Metz. Moki, I've actually interviewed Moki before live in person. He's one of the few people that I've actually interviewed in person. When I visited the Philippines, I interviewed Moki at that time. It's been a few years now, so I wanted to interview him again, take another stab at it, where we can kind of just spend some more time with it. At that time, when I interviewed him in person, like we had just met like in person, and so like now we've like actually been friends for a while. You know, I think we can maybe kind of chat maybe a little bit more at ease or whatever. But yeah, it should be cool. So yeah, interview with Moki on Friday. So some cool live stream stuff for you guys this week. But let's start off here with the Gundam Ver.Ka. So I feel like this is one of those kits that, like, if you're like a seasoned, experienced like Gundam modeler, not like a collector or just like a snap build or whatever, like if you consider yourself like a real deal Gundam modeler, you have to have probably built this kit at some point in your career. But I haven't yet. I have never built this kit yet. I think I've built I feel like I've built some I think like the closest thing would be the power gym, which I think shares some parts with this. I think that'd be the closest thing. The power gym, if I remember correctly, does share some parts, because I think it shares some parts with the gym Type C, which also shares some parts with this kit as well, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so let's get to it. I'm working on some other stuff as well too. I don't know if we'll get to doing any other live stream builds this week. Like I said, there's other live stream stuff coming up, but as far as building stuff live this week, it will probably maybe only just be this one. Oh, I should also not forget about this too. Also on Wednesday, I'm gonna do another episode of Plamo no Trend with Josh. We were planning on doing it every 2 weeks, but we enjoyed it so much, and there's a new trend especially that we really wanted to check out. So we're like, maybe let's just do it just every week for a while, just see how it goes. So we're gonna be doing a new episode of Plamo no Trends, Josh and I, this Wednesday. So that's Wednesday morning, and then my hangout with Adam doing the USA Gundam TV live stream, that's actually Wednesday night my time. So that's Wednesday morning for you guys in the US. So actually I'll have two kind of live stream things going on Wednesday, but one in the morning, one at night. Some different things. So in the morning, hanging out with Josh a little bit, checking out some more cool stuff on Twitter. If you guys missed that first episode last week, Go back and check that out. We both had a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching that. Just kind of watching us chatting about this cool stuff on Twitter, but we enjoy that, so hopefully you guys could enjoy that some as well too. Just seeing some cool stuff, you know, something to just put on in the background while you're working on building something. And you know, again, check out some cool stuff with us on Twitter. There's always cool stuff to see, inspiration, motivation for your building and all that. So let's see. I'll just say hello to a few people here. Let's see. Bond over there on Twitch. I'm not sure. I don't have my Twitch stats open. I can see the chat because I can see all the collective chats all together here. So, but I can't see how many people are watching on Twitch. But however many of you are there. Also on Facebook, Muhammad, Albert, and let's see, on YouTube. Obviously, there's going to be most of you guys here on YouTube. Unicorn, Avalanche, Nick. I think I saw Greg was in here as well. Greg, Rick, Tomas, and also Thomas. Mexican Kool-Aid, John. Let's see, Rommel. Is that a new type? Bunch of you guys. Alexander. Okay. Guliam. Hopefully I'm not butchering that name. And Alvin on Twitch. How's it going? Alright. Joel, thank you for the super chat there on YouTube as well. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Joel. Good looking out. Okay. Yeah, and yeah, also, as we're getting into it, so guys, if you didn't see, I think my video, what was that, last week or beginning of last week? I don't know, whenever that was. I talked about how I'm going to be moving soon. So some of you may be wondering, like, what's going on with me moving and everything. It's soon, but not quite yet. So probably around the later part of this week is when that's kind of really gonna kind of start to kick into high gear. So I'm not like really moving a ton of stuff or like doing a whole lot with that quite yet. But yeah, really think it's gonna be a good chance to really work on a lot of just kind of upgrades, just upgrading the space, just getting the space kind of more clean, organized, nicer for just the presentation for you guys, and just the content. Just working on some just general upgrade stuff, which should be good. So we'll see. And as always, guys, too, if you have different, if you have any questions that you want to ask directly there in the chat, I can see the chat. Obviously I'm looking here, working on the building here, but when I do check out the chat, I'll try to answer any questions you guys have. But just to help me to see your guys' questions, to pick them out in the chat easier, if you want to put your questions, you can put them in all caps. You know, don't get too crazy. Spamming the comments with all caps kind of bothers some people, but if you put your question in all caps, it makes it easier for me to see, or just tag me in your comment so that I can just see it really easily when I look up at the screen. That's always helpful. Thank you very much. Let's see. Hi. We're just talking about painting and some Katoki stuff. So yes, this is a Ver.Ka version KA, as they always confusingly call it in Japan. I'm in Japan, so it's like trying to talk to someone about anything Ver.Ka, and they just like have no idea what you're talking about. What? You're saying like, Ver.Ka? And they're like, no, they don't know. They don't know what Ver.Ka means. It's version KA. Seems so weird. Like, for if you guys like are familiar with any Japanese at all, you know that like they love to shorten. Gunpla is a perfect example of this. Gunpla is a shortening of the words Gundam plastic model, so they love like shortening stuff. So I don't know why they wouldn't just say Ver.Ka. It's so much shorter than just saying version KA. But anyway, Demonet asks, how do get go at filming YouTube videos? I'm guessing maybe you mean how to get good at filming YouTube videos. I don't know. I don't know. That's one thing that I want to work on with my channel is improving the video quality. Because I'm actually like, I've never really been very happy with the video quality of my videos, and I'm missing a part. There it is. But I don't know. I kind of do my best with it, but also I have a background, like my my graduate degree is in filmmaking, so I have a little bit of background at least in like video editing and stuff, so that helps. But honestly, you know, I would say that I think the video quality doesn't matter as much as the content. It does seem like that's kind of changing a little bit these days though, because they're just, for like a lot of the channels that I think are like kind of popping up and doing well, at least at the start for now, it seems like, are these channels that are like really super like glossy, high finish, like very fancy looking videos. So like where the actual video production quality is really high. So I guess that is pretty important as well. But just having good quality content as well. Like you can't get on like with a video like you have like the best video quality and like the best sound quality and like your video looks amazing, and then you get on there and you're just kind of like really super awkward kind of talking. Then it's not really going to, you know, help. It's not really gonna, people aren't gonna be all excited to watch that kind of thing. Sorry guys, I know there's a lot of questions going in the chat. I'll try to answer these as best I can. I'm doing my first custom with spray cans. It's a HUC Jagan. Help. Also, I only have white primer. Nathaniel, I wouldn't worry about only having white primer. White primer works fine. It's not a problem unless you want like a really super dark finish. Even then, it's still possible. I would just advise using gray or black if you wanted something really dark, but white primer is fine. But as far as painting your first custom with spray cans, it's also not a problem. I don't know, what do you want help with? Doesn't seem like you've got any problems so far. Unicorn said, do the tabs on the PG Strike Freedom's rail guns go into the slots on the centerpiece of the back skirt? I don't know. I have built that kit, but it was like 8 years ago, probably 8 or 9 years ago. So I have no idea. I don't remember. Evan said, when you clean up the nub marks, what do you use? Do you typically just use sandpaper or some other sort of implement? For just the initial snap building of the kit, I usually pretty much just use the nippers and a hobby knife 95% of the time, and I will use a little bit sometimes, just a sanding stick, a soft type sanding stick a little bit if I need, but just to get the kit just snap built, presentable just for a review, usually that's enough. But then when I'm going to go to actually paint the kit, I will go back and do a lot more sanding. I'll sand pretty much everything as much as I can. I will always just recommend you guys, the more sanding that you can do, the better. You're never gonna have a problem where you did too much sanding. Unless, I mean, like you over sand a piece, but that's not what I mean. I mean, like, sanding too many parts of the kit is never going to be your issue. You could certainly, of course, have an issue of sanding too much on one part, where like you kind of like, it's supposed to be like a flat, like straight corner, and you sand it too much so that it becomes rounded. That's certainly possible too, and something you need to be careful of. But Yes, always doing plenty of sanding before you actually get to painting is never going to hurt. It's only going to help your build, so recommend doing that. Joshua Moo, you also had a question? Well, fire away the question. I'll try to answer it for you. I'm building this a little bit out of order, by the way, guys. You are supposed to build like the backpack like later, after the head and arms, and then the folded up core fighter here is also much later in the building process. But I'm just kind of skipping ahead a little bit because I put all these parts together. Is that supposed to be sticking out like that? I feel like this is not in there correctly. Excuse me. Avalanche said, in the hobby a year and a half and have had bad experiences applying water slides. Any good tips for some shaky hands? My first question would be what do you mean by bad experience? You had like the decal like breaking apart when you're trying to move it into place, or what's exactly the bad experience? In my experience, water slides are much easier than I think some people make them out to be. I don't know why it seems like some people kind of have this mindset that water slide decals are sort of tricky. They're really not. But I mean, I have had my share of mistakes with water slides as well. I mean, it does happen. But generally, I think they're pretty simple. You said breaking apart mainly or not coming off the paper. Well, when it comes to coming off the paper, the key is just to give the decal enough time. Some decals take a little bit longer to kind of separate from the paper enough. So if you had it like sitting in water, or I actually don't leave them sitting in water. I dip them in water, get them wet, and then just set them on the hobby mat. But if you had it set there for a little while, and then you go to move the decal off, if it's not moving, then just wait. Just put it back in the water maybe, or just let it sit for some more. It's just not ready to come off the paper yet. So you just need to let it wait a little bit more. When it comes to the decals breaking apart, then it could be that you're trying to move it too early. If it's like breaking as you're moving it off the paper, then like I said, you need to just wait it a little bit more. Or if it's breaking while you're moving it around, it could be a couple things. Could be that if your surface of the part is not glossy enough, it's harder for the decal to move around, so that's why it's important to gloss coat first. So you have a nice like glossy surface, it makes it easier for the decal for you to move that around into place. Also, if you're using a solution like Mark Softer, I think it's what's the micro version of that? Micro Soft? I don't know. That would be Microsoft. That would probably not right. Anyway, whatever the other version of that is, I use a Mark Softer. Whatever you use, once that liquid comes in contact with the decal, it's starting to soften the decal. So you have a very limited amount of time to move the decal. Microsol, and maybe that's it. Thank you, Alvin. You have a very limited amount of time to move the decal around. Before it'll start to break apart. So yeah, that does happen. That's why you have to be careful. And I usually use Mark Softer most of the time, just because it helps to get the decal very flat on your surface. So that does happen to me on the occasion, and sometimes if it does happen, you're pretty much screwed. You have to just get off the decal and start again. Hopefully you have an extra one. It's not one that you have like just one single decal of. But that would be my guess as to probably what's going wrong with your decals. Yeah, but I can't think of any other reason, maybe necessarily why the decal would be breaking apart, other than just like you just need to be kind of delicate with moving them around, of course. But hopefully that helps. Like with anything, I suppose, decals are just going to be, it just takes a little bit of practice. You kind of just get a feel for it after a while, and you kind of know. But again, too, like I said, it does depend a little bit on the brand, because like a Bandai brand or some like Chinese brands, sometimes, like the wait time, how long it takes them to separate from the paper, things like that, it can kind of depend a little bit on the brand, so you kind of have to just go with what's working. Is Mark Softer paint friendly? Yeah, Geek Eric, yes. Mark Softer or mark setter, those things shouldn't bother your paint at all. From my experience, I don't use acrylic paints, but as far as I know, they won't bother your acrylic paints either. That said, I have had sort of some issues because I'll usually, before I do like my panel lining and decals for my gloss coat, I'll usually use the Pledge, which is like the Pledge gloss coat, the floor gloss coat. Some people don't like using it because it's not an official hobby product, and some people will say like it actually like yellows over time. I haven't had that experience. I haven't really had any problem with using it, and it's just it's cheap and simple. And where I'm at, actually, like official hobby products, like branded products, are cheap here too. So the fact that it's cheap actually doesn't really matter that much to me. It's just simple to use. So while I don't necessarily recommend using Pledge, because some people do have, I think, probably legitimate grievances against using it, I'll say it's what I use. It works well enough in my experience for me, but do whatever works for you. But I will say that I have noticed on plenty of occasions that the Mark Softer does react with the Pledge. So sometimes my Mark Softer will cloud up a little bit, but it's usually then what I'll do is then when I gloss coat over again with Pledge, then the clouding will be gone. So just for whatever reason, the Mark Softer, when you put that onto a part that's been coated with Pledge Future, then yeah, sometimes it clouds up a little bit, but just once you coat it again, it'll all be gone. So it doesn't really matter. So I haven't really worried too much about it. But again, that's just in my experience. Leandro said, "What do you think about the Ver.Ka?" I enjoyed it. It's a cool build. It may not be for everyone. People may not like something that big and like that cumbersome. You can't really do a whole lot with it, but I think with that, you just kind of have to manage your expectations. You shouldn't really be getting that kit expecting it to be doing like some super dynamic, like acrobatic aerial poses. A big, very heavy kit. And Jim Biafra, Jim, thank you very much for the super chat there. He said, "Just a small thanks for the countless hours of entertainment and information." You're welcome, Jim. I appreciate that. Appreciate the support. You're welcome. Oscar said, "Hi from California. That's an awesome shirt. Thank you. Builders Association shirt. Thank you, Joel, True Gunpla, for that as well." Quick Assembly. G 아저씨 Gunpla. Okay. 안녕하세요, 아저씨. Vizsla, do I skate? Not much these days, but I used to skate a lot more than I do now. Being having multiple jobs makes it hard to find time to do some of those things. Being a husband, father of 2 young kids, and also doing this. Yeah. Don't really have a whole lot of time for skating these days, but as my kids are getting older, hopefully we'll at least have and now is the summertime too, so we'll hopefully be getting some more time to kind of skate around with them, because both my kids have like the little scooters, like they call them kickboard here, but scooters, kickboard scooters. So they like riding around on those, whatever. And so sometimes when we're out and they're scooting, I'll skate with them while they're scooting. So just I'm not like doing some like sick tricks and like jumping down any stairs or trying to like grind some rails or anything like that, like while I'm just hanging out with my kids. I'm like my penny board, just I have a one of the penny cruiser boards, and so just kind of rolling around, but it's fun. I like that. If you've seen any of my videos like from Japan, you probably see me riding around there in Japan on my penny board. It's a lot of fun. Cliff is stopping by to say hi and enjoy all my videos and owe a lot of my skills to you. Thank you for all you do. Cliff, you're very welcome. I've been thinking about this. I don't really want to get into it too much. I don't really want to dwell on this because, yeah, anyway. But I've been thinking a little bit about this recently, how like I hear a lot from like a similar sentiment from people saying like they learned a lot from my videos over the years and things like that. And I just think it's really cool that like I'm not necessarily like, I'm not by any means like a really advanced builder. I would say like it's like high intermediate maybe. And there's a lot of people around, like people that I know like in the community who are like a lot more skilled and talented at Gunpla and things than I am. But I do think it's kind of cool how probably there's at least, you know, a number. I don't know exactly how many it would be, but I know there's at least a good amount of people out there who at least I maybe started with, or my videos like were kind of helpful to just get them started on the path, and probably a lot of people who have now like far surpassed my own skills in Gunpla just because they kind of got started and then went on their own to kind of, you know, develop their skills more and more and more. And so I think that's really interesting that like I may not, well, I certainly am not, I can say with certainty that I'm not the best builder around, but it's cool to know that at least a lot of the people who are some of the best builders around, that I probably at least in some way through my videos, you know, played a part in getting them started on their own way to becoming really awesome builders as well. So I think that's pretty cool. Whether you agree with that sentiment or not, it could not necessarily be true, but probably. The Raids ask, what's your real name? My real name is Zach. What's a good self-healing cutting mat? I guess you said what's a good self-healing cutting. I don't know. I think you mean cutting mat, but I don't know. It doesn't really, the brand of cutting mat doesn't really matter much, I don't think. Daniel. David asked, do you paint all your Gunpla? No, I don't. I wish I could. I wish I had the time to paint every single kit that I build, but no, I don't have the time for that, unfortunately. Gundam Barbatos asked, how much did the Gundam cost? This kit, I think, goes for around 30 bucks, maybe less, around there. Brian Peace, I got my cutting mat from Daiso. Yeah, this mat is a really huge one. That is not from Daiso, but like a similar kind of store. It's like a, what would you call that? A stationery store. There you go. I knew I could figure it out eventually. Yeah, just like a small stationery store. Alvin saying that, this is an interesting comment I want to also talk about. He said the plot twist that the PG Unleashed is just a walking statue but smaller. I also have this suspicion that the PG Unleashed is I don't know if it's gonna like actually have like a walking gimmick. I hope not, because I don't really necessarily care about that. I don't really care to have a Gunpla that can walk. It's just kind of silly and necessary. But at the very least, I think it's very possible that Bandai may go with the same design. How like the real grade Gundam and the Master Grade 3.0 Gundam are both modeled after they're both modeled after like the 1-to-1 scale Gundam that they built there in Tokyo. So I'm really worried that the PG Unleashed is also going to be sharing the same design as the new walking Gundam, which I think the design for that walking Gundam looks pretty ugly. So I'm really hoping that that's not the case. But man, we'll see, I guess. But that walking Gundam design is pretty dang ugly, so I'm hoping that the new PG is not modeled after that. Geek Eric's asks, what's your wife's opinion of Gunpla? She doesn't like it, as in she's not interested in it at all. And she used to not like it more. But now, especially in like more recent years, that I've been relatively successful in what I'm doing with my YouTube channel and everything, she's gotten to appreciate it a little bit more. And especially since it's like a big part of our income as well too. So I think like in the early couple of years of my YouTube channel, I think she didn't really like that. We weren't married at the time. We got married, I guess, not long after I started my YouTube channel. But in the early days of my YouTube channel, I think she didn't like that I was spending so much time doing this. But like it wasn't like I was not spending any time with her. So I don't know. But she's fine with it now. It's not like she like hates it. She doesn't like it at all. She doesn't like. She's not interested in making Gunpla herself. Sorry for the sound effect there. May have to turn that off. Turned off the alerts for a bunch of other stuff, but I left the alerts on for people following apparently, and it's blowing up now. Have you seen the recent announced Brave series kits? I'm not sure. What are those? Speedball Haro? Brave series? I don't know, what's that? Demonit said, do you have a kid, and if so, does he or she like making Gunpla? I have 2 kids, and they're not really interested. They're still too young. So yeah, they're not to the age of where they would really be interested in it that much yet. My son is maybe kind of starting to show a little bit of interest in it. He's a little bit older. He's gonna be 5 later this year. He's 4 now. So he's kind of like he knows, like, as much as a 4-year-old can grasp what having a job means, he knows that like it's my job anyway, and like he knows that this room is full of Gundam models. Again, he doesn't, and he also like he doesn't have any idea about like what Gundam like as a franchise is. Of course, either he's never like really seen it. I think he's seen like a couple minutes of the anime on like on the TV display at a Gundam base store one time when we've been to when we've stopped into a Gundam base store in the mall here in Korea. So like that's the extent of how much he's actually seen the Gundam anime. But no, anyway, point is my kids are not interested in Gundam or Gunpla at this point. My daughter is younger too, so she's definitely not. J. Decker Goldram Mecha related to King of Braves Go Gaigar. I think I saw. Now that you mention that, I remember seeing something about that. I saw the name. I remember that name, but I don't think it must not have been something that I was that interested in, because I remember seeing the name, but I don't remember looking at it that closely. Thaddeus asks, hey, would you think a Banshee would look good with matte pink psycho frame and metallic black, or just all matte colors? Either way could be cool. I think there's a lot of ways that you could. There's a lot of different ways that you can go with unicorn kits, but yeah, matte pink psycho frame and metallic black. Yeah, that could certainly look cool. Kind of like opposite. Usually, like the psycho frame is kind of the shiny part, right? But to have the psycho frame in matte could be kind of cool too. Yeah, or just all matte could be cool. Sure. Arrowhead over there on Twitch said, do you read the Gundam manga or just watch the anime? Mostly I've just watched the anime. These days I don't really do either, but I have read some of the manga a little bit, not a whole lot though. And kind of most of the manga that I've read has been Unicorn and G Gundam. What mobile suit do you think is the fastest? Johnny Tran, I think the fastest is what the V2 Gundam, isn't it? I think I don't have to contemplate on that because I think the answer for that question actually exists. I'm pretty sure it's the V2 Gundam. Like in canon is actually the fastest Gundam. Is that right? I think that's right. Red Sentinel? No, I did start reading Sentinel. I didn't finish it. That's not a manga though, so I didn't really. Have also started reading some of Advanced Zeta as well, but also haven't finished that either. What's your thoughts on the MG Gundam Astray Turn Red? Have you built it? No, I have not. And I'm not really that interested. Not a huge fan of the different Astray variants, most of them. Did you read G-Unit? No, Johnny, I've not read G-Unit, but that would be something cool to look into, actually. Now that we've got some G-Unit kits reissued and the new G-Unit P-Bandai kits coming out. It would be kind of cool, maybe to like do a video taking a look at the G-Unit manga. It's not really kind of like what I do. I think that would be something probably better left for where does this part go? Hang on. Something better left for what's his name? Channel 2, not the Channel 2S. What's his name? The Kakarot. Yes. He does the kind of lore videos and stuff like that. Something like taking a look at like some sort of review of a Gundam manga seems like something like more in his wheelhouse. Is that part on there correctly? Hang on. No, it's not. That's why it looks strange. You mentioned forums the other day. Kind of missed those days. I spent a lot of time in the Fictin Fu forums. Hobbyholics was another one. I think I remember. Fun times for sure. Yeah, I think I've mentioned this in videos before, but like when I first started like putting stuff online under the Zaquarelius title, I was actually started on no, I don't remember what was the name of that forum. I don't even remember now. A forum anyway. So I was just like sharing some pictures and some kind of like short kind of like photo reviews, maybe just like some kits that I've been working on, stuff like that, before I started on to uploading stuff on YouTube. What was the name of that forum? If I hear it, I'll remember. I can't think of it at the moment though. One that was more popular like 6-7 years ago, around that time. One of you will probably know, I'm sure. What kit do you want Bandai to make as HG to PG? So you're meaning like what PG kit would I like to see get turned into, or what HG kit would I like to see come out as a PG? I don't know. A PG Shinanju would be cool. G Eclipse. Maybe it was G Eclipse. I think maybe that's right. Yeah, that sounds right. I think so. Mecha Lounge was I think more recent, or it was a thing and then it's like just more recently came back, right? Do I remember the Junk Guild forum? No, I don't think I ever knew much about the Junk Guild forum. I think the name sounds familiar, but do you think that the Full Armor Gundam should get a PG kit? The Full Armor Gundam, that would be cool. Definitely. If they like made just like a full armor version, even if it's like based off of the old RX-78-2 PG, I would be fine with that. That'd be awesome, actually, yeah. If they made a full armor variant of that, that'd be really cool. And Brian, thank you for the super chat support there as well. These are the best type of quarantine. Thank you. Well, yeah. Hopefully you guys are weathering the quarantine, you know, as best you can. And yeah, I know doing these live stream videos it's a good time to do them. Like if there's any bright side to being quarantined, it's a good time for just kind of hanging out doing live stream videos. People will get a chance to hang out virtually, right? In a way. Do you think the release of the Curios will be delayed because of the Rona? No, I don't think so, Jonathan. This month's releases seem to not be affected, but as I've talked about, I think in a couple of videos before, a couple of the June kits got delayed to July. I think it was the Messer and one of the Build Divers kits. Which one was that? Well, anyway, 2 HG kits got delayed, but that seems to be really kind of the only, I mean, obviously aside from GBWC being cancelled, really the only effect so far we've really seen on Bandai's production is just that a couple of kits got delayed. That's pretty much it seems like, so, and only delayed a month. And I'm not exactly sure why. I would assume that's probably just because of the factory not really being able to work at full production. So they probably had to slow some stuff down. They've never done a 2.0 of Ver.Ka. I could see them starting with this one if they ever decide to do so. Yeah, John, I think that's a interesting idea. And people complain a lot. Anytime there's a new version of RX-78-2, some people tend to complain about it. Some people are happy about it. But certainly a 2.0 of the Gundam Ver.Ka could be interesting. Although I'm not really sure, what that would entail, right? Because they already got the actual, just like regular 2.0 Master Grade, which is great, and the 3.0, which is obviously fantastic as well. So making a 2.0 of the Ver.Ka, I guess, would just be sort of like, with the actual like construction of it, the engineering of it, I don't think would really introduce anything new, which I think is what they like to do with the 2.0 kits. What Bandai kind of likes to do when they release a 2.0 is they like to show off like new engineering techniques and things like that. So I'm not really sure what else they could do much more with the original Gundam now they haven't already done with the 2.0 and the 3.0 MG, except for basically just making like something like that, but just with the Ver.Ka design. So I mean, I agree it would be cool, and it's very possible that they could do that, but I don't know like how inherently like exciting that would be as far as just like the actual building process of the kit. It would be basically something akin to the 2.0 or 3.0, just with the Ver.Ka style. Rudolfo asks, what year is this kit from? This kit is from 2000? No, 99? I don't know. It's from 2002, actually. Oh, okay. Not quite as old as I was thinking. 2002. Still been a while, though. 18 years. Any thoughts on the cross silhouettes? Have the e.g. Well, I just recently got the cross silhouette Barbatos Lupus Rex. The cross silhouettes are cool kits. I'm not really a big SD fan, so just in general, I'm not really going to be that big of a fan of cross silhouette kits. But as far as SD kits go, I think they're pretty cool. They're nice. I've checked out a couple of them. Built and painted the Nightingale SD cross silhouette. That's a really nice kit, I think. Sorry to ask again. Oni said the Ver.Ka of the RX-78-2, is it an original red logo or blue logo, aka Spirits? Well, that just depends on when the actual kit was produced from Bandai, like that actual run of it. So if you get one that was produced over a year or so ago, then it's probably got the red label on the box. But if they've done a production run recently, which I don't think they have, so that maybe a blue label version doesn't exist yet, but whenever they get around to doing another production run of the kit, it's gonna have the blue label, so it doesn't really matter, really for anything. Just depends on when it was produced. Going forward, all of their kits, whether they're new or old kits, it doesn't matter if they're produced from now on. If they're like if they go through production, then they're gonna have a blue label on them, even if it's an old kit. Arrowhead asked, do you have a Discord server? I do have a Discord server. It is just exclusive for Patreon supporters, though. So it's one of the Patreon rewards. So if you're interested, you can check out my Patreon page. It's just Zach Aurelius on there. So blue logo. Yeah, this one I bought a few years ago, so it's just red logo on there. I don't think that this kit has gotten a production run recently. But yes, Discord, yeah, is cool. On the Discord there, we've got a bunch of people, and we show off our works in progress, and I share a lot more work in progress photos there than like what you'll see in any other of like my social media. On like my Facebook or Instagram or Twitter pages, I sometimes will share like a work in progress photo on there occasionally, but I share a lot more within my Discord server. And other people share their stuff as well. We kind of take a look at people's works in progress and finished works and general chat about everything, whatever. Demone asked, what are your thoughts on Gundam Thunderbolt? It's cool. I like it. And I wish they would make some more Thunderbolt kits. There's a lot of really cool designs. You see the dude Twitter building a 1/35th scale RX Ver.Ka. I think I have seen that. Pretty sure. Yes. I don't know. Yes. I don't know what else there is about that. At Guy Thunderbolt, yeah, that would be cool. There's a lot of cool variants there. Thunderbolt is bay. Have you built the full armor Gundam Ver.Ka? The full armor Gundam Ver.Ka, the Thunderbolt one? Yes, I built and reviewed that back when that kit came out, yeah. Now we need to cut some of this mesh piping here. Hey, Speedball Haro said, what advice can you give for beginner Gunpla reviews? Like I said before, I think the quality doesn't matter quite as much as the content, but that said, you do need to also at least have good quality as well. So I mean, just having a good quality camera, decent lighting, decent sound. You don't want like crappy sound. No one wants to listen to that. And lighting, you know, is good too. I think, and this is something I've kind of like been battling with, because there's some really cool channels out there. There's some really cool channels that like visually, the visual style of the videos is really cool, but like the lighting is like the kind of like spotlight lighting, you know, which is very like visually dynamic, but you can't like see the kit as clearly. Like for me, I've always tried to give you guys the best view of the kit, which means like good lighting so that you don't, like, the whites aren't overblown and like you don't have like details getting lost in the shadows and like really dark places. So I try to get like really good even lighting. It's not the most visually dynamic though, but it gives you, I think, gives you guys a good view of the kit, which is what is the point of my videos. I want you guys to be able to, you know, see what the kit looks like before you build it, so you can make an informed decision of whether you want to buy it or not. So it's kind of been like a struggle for me, like thinking about, okay, do I want it to the videos to look a little bit more visually interesting, or giving you guys just a clear look at the kit. So it's kind of can go either way with it. But anyway, yeah. Also, the important thing too is to just if you're starting a Gunpla channel, is just to differentiate yourself in some way. Do something that is different from what other people are doing in some way. You know, something that's going to make your channel unique and stand out in some way, right? Because otherwise, if you're just doing everything the same as everyone else, there's not really too much reason for people to watch your channel over the channels that they already know and are familiar with and like. So it's kind of a very simple, basic answer, but hopefully that at least gives you something to go off of. Now, I'm just wondering about this part. I think it's this one, because I don't actually know which part this is. I guess that's right. Wasn't sure which part is which, but I think this is right. There's two of these kind of piston parts that look very similar. Also, sorry, Dianjo, thank you for the super chat there. I'm stuck between wanting to start an MG Nemo, MG Cubile, or an MG Zaku 2 with a Zaku 1 conversion kit. Any suggestions? also take my money. Well, I appreciate the support. And as for any suggestions as to what you should start, MG Nemo, MG Cubile, or MG Zaku 2, I mean, I don't know, I can't really, you know, give you any suggestions as to what you should start, but I would say maybe if it was me, I'd maybe start with the Nemo, just because between the three project ideas that you mentioned there, the Nemo kind of sounds the most boring to me, in my opinion. So I would probably want to knock out the boring one first, and then like you have something more exciting to look forward to with the Cubile and the Zaku and the conversion kit and that, I think. But it depends on what you want to do with the kits, of course. But I think the Nemo, well, on its own, maybe a little bit boring kit, might be a little bit more exciting in just the fact that again, depending on what you're going to do with it. If you're going to like customize it a bunch, it could be, you know, a lot more interesting, a lot more exciting. Do you think you could do a 100 Savior review? Probably not, just because I don't have the kit, I don't plan on getting it, and there's a lot of kits that I already have that I haven't got around to reviewing yet, building it, so without any like real reason to do so, I probably wouldn't review that kit anytime soon. The Raids asked, "You're not bored in your home?" Nope. As long as there's still that wall of kits behind me, I'll never be bored. And I'm thinking to just not use the screws on this kit, because having the kind of usual problem of the screw like not wanting to go in. Some Gundam fanboy asked, "What time is it where you at?" Here, where I'm at, in Korea, it is 11. It's just after 11 a.m. So, after this stream, I'll have a little lunch and then work on the new Zaku News video for the USA Gundam TV channel. I always hear people say to put panel liner on top, even though it's not usually what you do with top coats. What? How can I fix the plaster from getting brittle from panel lining? It's not really so much about fixing the plastic. You can take steps to protect the plastic, but the important part is also to be careful with your panel lining itself. You know, you don't want to be caking loads of panel lining on there, especially if you're using one that's solvent based. And especially you want to keep the panel lining liquid from getting into hard, like this is a good example. So like if you're panel lining this part and like you're panel lining this gray part at the top here, and you're putting a bunch of liquid on there, and that liquid is going to seep down underneath this white armor panel part, and you want to avoid that. I think in this particular case it probably wouldn't be a huge problem, because I don't think these parts would necessarily break, but in other areas of the kit it could be a problem, because when the liquid goes down there and it's underneath this armor part, it's going to have a harder the thinner within the liquid, the solvent, is going to have a harder time evaporating out of there, drying basically, and it's going to stay there, and the longer that solvent stays on the plastic, it's weakening the plastic. So just on the surface here, like you're doing your panel lining, just on the surface, whatever, and then you maybe leave it on there for a few hours, whatever even is okay, because it'll be dry for the most part. The thinner will evaporate out of it, and just like the paint, but what's left will be stuck on there, and then you're cleaning up your panel lining and doing all that, whatever. But the longer that your wet liquid is in contact with the plastic, is going to be weaker. So just be careful with that, and yeah, just doing any panel lining directly on the bare plastic is also not going to be as safe. It's more dangerous to weaken the plastic if you've got nothing on the plastic to protect it. Now, basically, what would be on the plastic to protect it would be just like paint, surfacer, primer, paint, top coat. If you got all that on there on the top of the plastic already, that's a good thing to protect the plastic. But you don't necessarily have paint covering the entire thing. So again, that's what I'm saying. You don't have the paint going on into the inside, because you're not going to paint like all the inside of this part as well necessarily. So that's still just bare plastic in there, and if the panel line or liquid, that solvent gets in contact with the bare plastic on the inside, that's where you run into problems. So it happens. It still happens to me every once in a while. You know, like when you're putting a kit together after like everything's already done, you're doing like your final assembly, and you'll have a part crack, and it's probably from the panel lining liquid weakening the part. It happens. It still happens to me every now and then. Fortunately, it hasn't happened in a while, but it does happen every now and then. Just kind of have to be careful with it. Yes, and you can also, as mentioned there in the comments, you can also use other different products like oil and acrylics as well. You don't necessarily have to use something that would be enamel based, like the Tamiya accent color. You don't have to use necessarily a product like that. Is this kit as good for seam lines as it looks? To answer your question about the seam lines on this kit, it's a pretty old master grade, so of course it does have some seam lines, but yeah, it is pretty good actually. It seems like so far. There's a couple that I noticed. I'll point out for you here in just a second. So like here on the leg, this line is just there's no like actual like indent along the edge to turn it into like a panel line, but the line is there in a way that I think you could just make that a panel line. On the front of the arm, it is there's a detail there, so you don't need to worry about that. But on the back of the arm, you do have a seam line here. On the back of the arm there. On the top of the shoulder as well, it's kind of hidden as a detail. On the top of the torso, there's a panel line there. And on the head, you have a panel line on the top of the head, the very top part, but then on like the sides of the head, you will have that seam line there that you'll need to get rid of on the sides. But it looks like that this head is constructed in a way that it would be very easy to just make the face, just cut the tab at the back to make it separated, so that you can remove this seam line here and then have the face painted separately. And then once everything's all painted, the face part you can just slide up into place, and you need to glue it. You can just slide that up into place later, if that makes sense. I'll maybe talk about that in the review. That would be a good idea for a little tip at the end of the review to do for you guys. So I'll try to mention that and give a little demo on that in the review as well, just to kind of explain it a little bit nicer than that. But hopefully that simple explanation makes sense. It should. I've talked about doing that in the past. I think I demonstrated that, I think with my my Mega Shiki custom build that I did. So if you want to check out that, I'm pretty sure I did a work in progress video on that Mega Shiki build maybe 2 years ago, something like that. Been a little while, year and a half, I don't know. Should be another poly cap here. Missing poly cap. Hopefully suspicion and a worry that I didn't cut the polycap off the runner, because I'm noticing that it looks like for the other leg as well, maybe I didn't cut off the polycap either. So that means that I think I don't have the polycap for this. And I already threw the runners away, so unless it's here, which doesn't look like it's here, I'll have to find the equivalent polycap amongst my extra parts. Let's see, okay, that's fun. Got a bunch of stuff in the way there. So let's go to the extra polycaps, of which I have a few here. And let's see. It looks like a very common type polycap, so it should be fine. I'm sure I've got one here. Looks something like that. Not quite though, that's not quite gonna fit actually. Need a little bit different one. Or I can cut that to make it fit. Well, I got a bunch of this same polycap that I'm sure is all the same size, unfortunately. Yeah. Let me see. Sure, if I dig in here enough, I probably have the exact right one. But rather than wasting time doing that, I think I can just cut this polycap to the right size to match. Should be fine. The point is that this piece needs to be able to plug into there. And as long as it does that, then it's fine. The problem is this polycap, oops, fitting into here doesn't quite fit, so we'll have to cut the pegs on this polycap a little bit. Just to make them a little bit more narrow to fit into here. And unfortunately this is a pretty inconsequential part, so it's not going to matter all that much. Ultimately, I probably don't even need this polycap here. Basically all it does is just hold this gray part in place. I'll show you, hang on a second. Kind of pissed though that I did that. It's kind of a stupid thing to do. Not cut out the polycap that I needed for this. Oops. And so anyway, there you go. And then just this gray part to fit onto the top of there. So you can see like this gray part doesn't really even necessarily need a polycap to plug into. You could just glue that down into place. Polycap doesn't really do much. I guess it gives you a little bit of movement side to side for this part, for like the ankle armor to be able to move side to side a little bit actually. So actually that's kind of interesting little thing there. So Oh, I guess it actually doesn't actually move that much. Well, crisis averted. Let's see. Mike R, what are you talking about? Anyway, okay. Let's get this leg done then, shall we? This part needs to go on there. Got these bits on here. That's weird. Oh, it's because it's the wrong one. There you go. Silith asked, here's a question. I've been trying to find the LED kit for my PG Exia. Is there some sites I should know about? I don't know, anyone in the chat, can you recommend a good site to get the PG Exia LED unit? I don't know offhand, but I'm sure you should be able to find it. Bandai did eventually come out with just the PG set available on its own, right? Without having to buy the full kit. I remember there being an announcement for that, but I don't remember ever actually seeing that like actual product come out. Did it? Yep, the only one I could find was the PGXia himself, no LEDs included. Yeah, I thought I remember that Bandai was going to actually be coming out with the LED set sold separately. Is that not correct? Some nice detail on the inside of some of these armor panels. It's pretty cool. And this little bit of detail here. Here on the leg, it looks like also you're not really going to have any panel lines because there's a little bit there, like there's a panel line here through this part, but then at the very top, that part, there's no panel line there. So you can either extend that panel line up a little bit or you have a little bit of a seam line there to worry about. Kind of on the lower leg, I guess, you've got a little bit of a seam line there, again, depending on how much you really want to care about that, but there you go. I will say, I think the proportions are certainly Katoki, but he needs a little bit. The proportions are not quite to what we typically expect from Katoki nowadays. Let's see. Fan TV, please, can you read my name? There you go. Just did. Could you say the gating was battle damage? Yeah, you could. It's seems a little bit lazy, but if you you know, mess up on your build or whatever, break something or whatever, yeah, a lot of times what you can do is try to cover that up with some weathering or whatever and just call it battle damage. It's certainly a technique that can be used. Not necessarily recommended, but you know, typically you would want to try to do something like that intentionally and not just dealing with an accident. But yeah, you could do that. Zach, we were discussing building with no tools. Huh? Who was? Discussing building with no tools? I was? I don't think that was ever something that I was discussing. Was it? I don't think that I would want to do that. How to fix stress marks on clear plastic. You need to get a polishing compound, sanding and polishing compound. The LED unit for the PG Exia is sold separately as well. Oh, okay, thank you, Reiji, for clearing that up. Like I said, I knew it was announced, but I didn't remember ever actually seeing it in the store, so wasn't sure on that. Aye. Come on. There we go. Can you recommend any good RGs? Yeah, the RG Sazabi Ver.Ka, the Tall Geese, the new Ver.Ka, not the Ver.Ka, there's no Ver.Ka. This RG Sazabi, the RG new, the Crossbone, the Tall Geese, the Unicorn are all great. The Gundam Mark II is the older one, but I think still holds up pretty good. As for recommended RGs, from Malaysia with love. Thank you. Never been to Malaysia myself, but would love to visit there someday. Inui said, how's the build so far? It's pretty cool. It's actually a little bit better than what I was expecting. You know, for the age of this kit, I was expecting it to be, you know, an aged, seasoned MG, if you will, showing its age a little bit, but actually not as much as I was expecting. It's actually, I feel like, pretty nice for its age, pretty solid. So that's good. Seems pretty cool. If you come to Malaysia, do come and visit Terengganu. Okay, I don't know what that is or where that is, but okay. How long have you been building Gundam? I guess like almost around 20 years, but not continuously. For like a few years, and then many years of not really building, and then kind of getting back into building with just kind of like snapping kits, but really like seriously like modeling and painting for like 6 years. Man, I really should be better than I am for doing this for 6 years, but oh well. Let's see that on there. I was wondering why we have 5 screws. There's like 2 in each leg. I was wondering, maybe just the 5th screw is just an extra, just in case you lose one or something, but I think there's another screw that goes in the shield connection, if I remember correctly. So that's why there's 5. I have a great voice. I'll thank you, Curious. I'm not sure about that, but I appreciate the thought. based on a lot of YouTube comments that I've got, my voice is pretty monotone and boring, if you ask a lot of people. Which, sorry to say, I just have never gotten around to taking any, like, voice acting lessons or anything, so... Never taken the time to perfect my radio DJ voice for YouTube videos. There's there. Ken said, "Have you ever been to Japan?" Yes, I've been to Japan and made a bunch of videos from different trips to Japan here on my YouTube channel. Feel free to check those out. I also lived in Japan for a year. And yeah, I've been, not including the time when I lived there, I think I've just traveled there maybe 10 times, I suppose, something like that. Yes, I've been there many times. Watch for the screws, they strip easily. Yes, yeah, I know this. The screws are pretty shite on these kits, so that's why I'm screwing them with the pliers, because it's much easier. So if I'm just trying to screw them in with just the little tiny screwdriver, they're just too hard to get in. So using pliers allows me to do it with more force and just get this screw in straight away, rather than trying to force it so much with a tiny little screwdriver. Kind of annoying to do, but someone banging all last week. I think like in the apartment either directly above me or maybe 2 floors above me or something, there's been like some construction, they're remodeling or something like that. Been making a lot of racket, like all day long. So I'm in here like working and building or painting or recording, editing, whatever. And it's been just like all sorts of noise coming from upstairs. And then they were doing a bunch of work outside as well, so it was really noisy last week. Screws on an MG kit. Let's see. Zaku, when will you be taking commissions again? And what would be the base price for a paint job on an SDCS Lupus Rex? Dan with the plan. I don't plan to start doing commissions again anytime soon. So, sorry to say. But for something like an, I don't know, for like an SDCS kit, I mean like just painting the kit and like not doing any other sort of like customization or anything like that to it, I don't know, I'd have to look at it a little bit more closely, but because I've never bought that kit too, so I don't know like exactly how much masking and all that would be involved in the painting process or how straightforward it would be, but it'd be probably like around 150, I guess, at least, without really knowing too much again about what it would entail. Have you finished moving your office yet? No. LP Solden. As you can tell, I'm still here in my same room, so I'm not moved yet. But getting ready to start that pretty soon. Joshua, any tips for absolute beginners? My tips would be take your time and don't try to rush anything. First off, the building process takes time, and shortcuts are not going to help you. Your kit isn't going to look as nice, and you know, especially if you're like a beginner and you're just starting out. If you're like taking a bunch of shortcuts and just like whipping the kit together as fast as you can, it's not going to look that good, and you're going to feel kind of like, oh, well, maybe this hobby isn't for me, because it actually kind of looks like crap, but looks like crap because you didn't take the time to, you know, really do it right, you know what I mean? So take your time, follow the steps. You don't need a ton of tools at first, just good nippers, a hobby knife, maybe some sanding sticks, and there you go. Yeah, and just take your time in just the building as well. Following the manual. When you're first starting out, just looking at the manual, it may not make a lot of sense to you. It's pretty straightforward though, so I mean, just take your time reading the manual as well. And if something's not fitting together properly, it's probably your fault, not the kit. It's not like the kit has like a defect or something like that. It's probably that you're not putting something together correctly. So if something's not fitting together, you know, don't force it. Just take your time, and you'll be all right. So, and there's tons and tons and tons of resources online, on YouTube, blogs, whatever, Facebook. There's all sorts of people around online that you can ask for help. So let's say, don't be afraid to ask for help, but also before asking for help, just take the time to just do some research on your own as well. Nobody likes to be really bombarded by like a bunch of simple questions that you can find like 20 different YouTube videos like specifically dedicated to answering the topic of like how to remove nub marks. You don't need to go on Facebook and make a post like, hey guys, I'm a beginner, what's a good way to remove nub marks? That's the kind of post that, for me, I don't care. I would just scroll past it. I wouldn't really even bother with it. But for whatever reason, and a lot of people get annoyed by it, and I don't know really why, but whatever. For reasons, people get annoyed by posts like that. I find them kind of stupid, but the reason is just because if you're a beginner and you're looking for advice on how to get rid of nub marks, there's like 20, 30, 40 videos I'm sure that you could find on YouTube about it. And yeah, there are different methods and different techniques, but just, you know, take a look at some different videos, see what you think might work for you, and go for it. You have to just start. You have to just try it eventually. So if you start with a technique and you're finding that it's not really working for you, try something different. You know, you have to kind of adapt to see what works best for you. The way that I go about doing it is different from the way that I know some other people, like some of my good friends, do it a little bit differently. Like one just example that I could just tell you off the top of my head, Justinius Builds, you know, a fellow host on Gunpla Talk, good friend of mine. I know for removing nubs, he uses a file a lot. I never use a file for removing nubs, and I don't like it. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't recommend doing it, but he does it, and his builds come out fine. So that works really well for him. It doesn't work well for me. So, you know, you could try different things and see what works for you. On that note, guys, hang on just a minute while I step out for a moment. I'll be right back. Excuse me. As we were building the core fighter here, let's get back to it. Okay, so let's see, I got this guy going in here. What the hell? This core fighter construction is kind of odd. See, I've been building models for a long time, but even for me, sometimes the instructions are a bit weird. The instructions here for building the core fighter, it's kind of odd, complicated looking. So you just kind of have to slow down and take your time with it. Like that, because it's showing you like a bunch, it's like all the parts. Usually it's like put these parts together, then put these parts together, then put these parts together, but it's like put all these parts together all in one step. So it's kind of like to just check carefully and see how this is supposed to go here. Okay, that's like that. This one here, and this one here. Acid Blade. Let's see. Ver.Ka. That takes me back. I was in middle school when that kit came out. It was a joy to build back then. Oh, thank you for sharing. Sorry. Thought there was going to be a question for me. So it was all caps. Yes, anyway. Yes, they're all a pain. Alright. Let's see. Then these wing parts. Here and here. Like that. There you go. This guy here, that's upside down. It's like that. There we go. And then the landing gear for this. Like that. There we go. There's our core fighter, and we got some weapons and stuff to build here too. Do you plan to participate in the next GBWC? Chiquito. GBWC next year? Possibly. I don't know. I had a cool idea, something that I wanted to do this year, but I decided not to for a few different reasons. And it kind of worked out. And I'm glad that I didn't, because GBWC was obviously canceled this year, so. But will I participate next year? I'm not sure. We'll see. I still have the same idea that I could work on, or if I get some new idea, it could be something I'll work on, or I could decide just that I'm not interested. But the one thing I can tell you is that I'm not participating in the Bandai Open. What is it? What's it called? Bandai Open, right? Is it It's alright. The event that Bandai is having there in the US instead of GWC. So it's cool that they're doing that. First off, I'll just say that's cool that Bandai is letting Bluefin there in the US kind of go forward with organizing their own kind of online competition for people there in the US. That's cool. But I'm not located in the US, so I won't be participating in any way. They didn't ask me to be a judge either, so yeah. Being this is an older kit, do you feel this is a good kit for beginners? Rodolfo, it's a fine kit for beginners. It's not one that I think I would necessarily recommend for beginners. Not for any particular reason, just because I think even though you're a beginner and this kit is relatively simple, doesn't mean like that it's one that I would recommend for beginners. I think it's a cool kit. If you like it and you're a beginner and this is the one you want to get, I would say go for it. But there's other kits too that I think are also good that you could go for. They're also good for beginners. So yeah, I'm not sure that this is one that would immediately come to mind, but yeah, it could be good. That, and for the bazooka, let's see, need this a little bit. Sticking out there like that. Let's see. Yeah, Chiquito, that's usually my advice as well. He said there's no such thing as recommended for beginner, just get what you like. Yes, that's what I would recommend, really, honestly. And again, I'll just reference you to, or recommend you to check out my video on the topic. I forget the actual title for that. It's like how to choose the right Gunpla for you, or something like that, something along those lines. I did a video about this, and basically I said that yeah, just choose a kit that looks cool for you, fits into your price range, and is available for you. So obviously you can't, if the kit that you like is the one that's out of stock or something like that, then it's not really necessarily any reason to just wait for that one particular kit, unless like really are set on getting that one kit. But otherwise, should be able to find something that works for you. I didn't know that, but this bazooka had that bar detail there. That's pretty cool. And that's done, I guess. Actually, I really like this bazooka. I never really noticed the design of the bazooka on the Ver.Ka, but it's a really unique, it's a quite different design for the RX-78-2 bazooka. I really quite like that. I never noticed how different it is. Interesting, though. Some Chinese dude said, what are you gonna do with this build? I talked about that, I think, in a past video. Actually, the reason why I got this kit was because I do actually have a specific plan in mind for it, and that is to paint it as the Titans version RX-78-2, which apparently, if you guys saw, I think it was on the last episode of Gunpla Talk, I was talking about this, and apparently there's only like one illustration of the Titans Gundam anywhere online that I could find. but it's wearing the Vulcan pod, and I guess now that I've got it put together, I can test out how the Vulcan pod fits on this. But yeah, you can find that image of the Titan's version of the Gundam with the Vulcan pod of like the Gundam Mark II. So that's what I plan on doing with this. And let's see. This is a little bit large. I think I'll need to do a little bit of modification on this to make it to fit quite right, 'cause it's a little bit too big here for the Gundam's head, so I'll probably have to modify this a little bit, but that's the plan for this. And yeah, just in Titan's colors. So RX-78-2 mostly obsolete in the Titans era. Yeah, I don't know. So it's weird. I don't know why it exists. I don't know why there's a Titans version of the RX-78-2, and or what's really the backstory of that. But the official artwork does exist. So I don't know. It's there for something. So whatever reason. There you go. So, whoa. What's the best way to remove nub marks from clear parts? Wait, it says someone else asking the same question about nub marks on clear parts. There we go. There's the shield. I like that you have different options for the shield. You can have a different connector whether you want to attach that onto the back of the arm or the side of the arm, and it's not, instead of a moving part, it's just a different connector altogether, which is kind of cool. Sometimes moving part can be kind of annoying if it gets loose or whatever, but just a fixed part on there, so that's easy enough. Silver Stray, hey, good morning, good evening. It's still barely morning here. It's almost noon, but good day to you as well. I'll try to find the picture here if I can. I think it's like ways away. And I think, didn't I also send the picture to my computer at the time to show the guys on Gunpla Talk? Let's see. I may have it here. Downloads. I do. Maybe. I think so. Open. Aha, yes, indeed, here it is. So let me show this to you guys. Now that the kit's done, there we go. And yeah, I was just gonna say, I didn't notice that you can actually store the beam saber handles on the inside of the shield too, although if you do that, then what would you put in the backpack? I don't know, seems kind of odd. But you have the option there anyway, at least to do that. So, let me open this here. Image. Come on. Here we go. Yes, yes, yes. Hang on, I'll show you guys the image of the Gundam Ver.Ka that I was talking about, or the Titans version of the Gundam here. There you go. So, yeah, I mean, it's, won't really have to modify anything. The design is actually all exactly the same. Just kind of checking back and forth. Some of the colors are like, it's got the cockpit hatch is red, and so where this one is just one color. So obviously some color changes, but that's pretty much it. Just the Vulcan pot on the head. So yeah, again, I don't know where this artwork is from, but it's like, it looks official to me, as far as I can tell. But I'm guessing it must be from one of the Advanced Zeta books or something. Looks like that. I'd have to look around and check, but so there you go. That's the plan for that. But for the time being, let's see. For the time being, that is going to be it for the live stream today. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Bunch of you, 200 some of you hanging out watching today, so I appreciate that. It was a fun kit to build. Definitely old, but very cool. Seems pretty solid too. The screws, not really necessary. I think you probably could just build this without the screws, honestly. It wouldn't really make that much of a difference. The knee articulation there, not going to be very good. I don't think it's necessarily going to be the best kit when it comes to the articulation, although you do have a really nice elbow bend there for a 2002 MG. Oh, sorry, the picture's still on the screen, better remove that. Maybe that'd be a little bit helpful for you guys. There we go. Really nice elbow bend there. The knee is not so great, but I don't know. It's not a bad kit, and it looks good. I think if you like the styling of this, obviously the Ver.Ka style of the Gundam here is pretty cool looking. So when it's all painted up, I think it's gonna look very nice. A little bit of seam line removal to do on this, but actually not as much as you might expect for a 2002 MG. So there you go. Like I said, later on this week we got a few other different live stream stuff that'll be going on. This will probably be the only thing that I'll be building live this week, but on Wednesday morning will be another episode of Plum on the Trend with Josh. We'll be taking a look at a new trend this week. And then Wednesday night for me, which will be Wednesday morning for you guys in the US, I'll be live with Adam on the USA Gundam TV channel, doing a live stream show together there with him, where we'll be doing some Q&A. You guys can ask your questions to Adam, and also showing off just some new product stuff they got in stock there at the USA Gundam store. And then on Friday morning, again Friday morning my time in the US, that'd be Thursday evening for you guys, that'll be my interview with Mokimats. Yes, so check that out too. If you guys don't follow him, you can check him out. He posts a lot on Facebook especially, but also his Instagram and Twitter as well. I think he does also post a lot on Twitter, but he's around everywhere and he builds a lot of stuff, so check him out. Thank you guys all so much for hanging out today. I'll see you again very soon with some other stuff later on this week. So have a good one, guys.